What is libertarianism? That'll get you a lot of answers, and it takes some thought, because libertarians are a wide range of people. Okay? I may have something that comes to mind when you think of a libertarian. If Ron Paul was what popped into your mind, okay, good. Like Ron Swanson or something like that. Libertarianism is basically a view of force, which ties in with government, that has a very high threshold for the use of force and violence in society. Libertarianism is based around the idea that peaceful and voluntary solutions are the best way to handle things. It's not a dichotomy between selfishness and the common good. We've been taught to believe, and this is the influence of French political thinking that has nothing to do with the tradition of American thinking, except that it's been weaved in. We've been taught to believe in this idea of the common good. We're arguing for the common good, and that's what everybody says. Find a politician that says, I want the common bad for society. Okay, well, you're not going to find them, because you don't get elected saying that sort of thing, or you don't gain power saying that sort of thing. So they have to argue the common good, and they're willing to use force and violence and corruption and whatever other unethical tools they have to force people to follow their view of the common good, and they have to do it through absolute state control. Okay, well, anybody who's against that, they're just selfish. They don't want the common good. They don't want the general will of the people. And so that idea of the will of the people with a capital P, that's used to justify the use of force and violence to get what you want. And the interest groups or whoever that gets the most powerful in government at the time, they're the ones who get their version of the common good, whether it's really the common good or not. And they get it through force and violence. Okay, everybody else who's against this, you're just selfish. No, that's not the dichotomy. What's your threshold for using violence to get your ideas through, to get your worldview to be what society follows? So, I mean, people may want to see, I want to see the poor happy and successful. Okay, I want to see them come out of poverty. So do I. That's why I'm a free market capitalist. But are you willing to use force to make that happen? Are you willing to use violence against people in order to make that happen? Education, another one. Okay, are you willing to use violence against people to make that happen? People say, well, look, not using violence. Try saying no thank you to paying taxes. Okay, so the violence or the threat of legitimate violence is there. Libertarianism has a high threshold for using force and violence. Libertarianism leads to a very limited state. It leads to free market capitalism and protection of property, so that's where there might be some role for a state, but it can also be done in a voluntary way. It leads to all sorts of views that it's basically, you want many things done in society, you could have many different views that are represented by it, because what it's based in is how, okay, are you willing to use violence and force to get your ideas through? Well, you know, when you put it in that way, people can think about it hopefully a little bit differently. That peaceful and voluntary solutions might be the way to go in solving things. It leads to a disdain for the use of power, especially in government, to violate the rights of others, even if they're people that we don't like. And so that's at base what libertarianism is. the disdain of using force and violence instead of peaceful and voluntary solutions. And then logically it kind of works out from there. In one word, libertarianism is based around non-aggression, that you do not aggress against other people in general, and you expect them not to do that against you. And so that's what libertarianism is. It's basically non-aggression. The other parts get worked out from there.